SpectreVision Radio. SpectreVision Radio.
A man who looked like he had stepped out of the Hermit's tarot card, all in white in this long robe, and he's got a shawl covering his head. He's carrying a walking staff and a lantern. From his belt he's got a palm leaf.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast, where we listen to people's fairy encounters. But take heed, we're not talking about winged Tinkerbells here. These are real fairies, real encounters that took people like you and I by surprise. Stay a while and hear their stories. My name is Jo Hickey Hall, and I'm a folklore researcher. Dear listener, I hope you are well, and I know the world is currently at a critical juncture which is showing up in a number of situations in the world right now. Some people might wonder why I address such issues in a podcast which holds a space for people's fairy sightings. The two matters may seem at odds, but I can tell you that they tell the same story. That is, for as long as we can remember, we have been fending off those who seek to use their power to separate humanity from our Divine Mother, her embodiment in nature, and indeed, spiritual basis of humanity, through which we came into being. It is those same structures that removed us from the land of our ancestors, from our communities in which we thrived, from the songs and traditions of our peoples, and from the knowledge that we live alongside these realms, which may be other compared to our material existence, but they too are part of this universe that we all exist in. When we cut off the idea of their existence, we cut off an essential part of ourselves too. So it does not surprise me that at this point in the history of humanity, we are rediscovering these truths about the all and our part in it. And while these shock points may awaken humanity out of the sleepwalk of life, many of us are unaware that these systems have been working in the same ways for centuries. Whether they have dehumanized our brothers and sisters, wiped indigenous people from their lands because they were in the way of wealth and profit, whether they executed people for their beliefs and ways of worship, because those practices got in the way of powerful interests who wanted to maintain power over us and our relationship with the divine. Over the centuries, the West had largely been placated. We had been fooled into being divided from one another, fooled into thinking that these atrocities committed by persons and systems of power were somehow for the West's benefit and the onward march of modernity. And as the taking of life takes place before your eyes, there can be no denial. It is as clear as day, cold-blooded, before your very eyes. Despite attempts to command the populace to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears, make no mistake, this is a moment of truth. May the horror taking place both far and near be the clarion call to humanity to rise up, awaken to the fact that there is no division, only divinity within us, and reclaim our innate goodness, our eternal connection with all creation in this universe. We are made of love, and love defeats all. This beautiful episode is part 1 of 2 episodes with Faun. We discuss what it's like to talk to others about these kinds of experiences with other realms. Faun discusses their transformative experience, which took place under an elder tree at a crossroads. They share their childhood memory of encountering a non-human girl at the side of their bed, and later on, as a teenager, they experienced the Hat Man. This year, Faun, who is a member of our Patreon community, came on pilgrimage to Britain and met some of us at our in-person meetup in Glastonbury. They had many synchronicities and profound experiences. One of these involved an archetypal-looking pilgrim, and the other relates to a person that appeared to be channeling Dionysus on Glastonbury tour. If you can come and join us on Patreon as a way to support the podcast, please do. We hold online meetups every month, and we have our private Discord for chatting every day. I'm about to release an exclusive bonus episode from a new guest, which is rather a mystery, and I'm hoping the Patreon group might help us solve what seems to be rather a riddle of an encounter. Other ways to support are to share the show with just one other person who might enjoy it. And also, if you can take a moment to rate and review the podcast wherever you listen, that really helps. Modern Fairy Sightings t-shirts are available at Teemill, and they are all organic, made using renewable energy in a factory near you. They are so lovely. Do pick one up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The full-length video version is on Patreon. And wherever you are, there will be communities taking care of one another as we move through this storm. Let us envision what will be on the other side. And with open hearts, always remain curious.
Time to
So I live in southern Sweden. By this point, I've spent more than half of my life here, but in at different times of my life. I moved back here in 2010, I think, but I spent my childhood here as well, which is something that has come up. My relationship with the city has become a very important thing for me lately. And the thing that first made me want to reach out was something that happened to me in 2015. And it was an experience that I'm not always sure how to put it. Like, it wasn't the type of experience where I saw something extremely clearly, but it was the kind of thing that left ripples, and was extremely symbolically significant at the time. It was during a big time in my life. I had recently finished my master's degree, and I was not quite sure where I was headed. I was struggling with some mental health issues, and as part of that, I had been given the advice that, oh, you need to get out for walks. So I went on my daily walk for maybe half an hour or something, and I would go as far as I could get in that time. And there was one day, this was on October 31st, and I had decided to go out. And I think that my intention was that I wanted to sit down somewhere and meditate. And I was living on the edge of town, and near my house there was this gravel road that stretched out into the fields, and I would walk there quite often, but I wouldn't get very far. And this time I started walking, and I was looking for a place to sit. After a while, you get to a place where the road gets more narrow. It becomes more of a footpath, and it starts to slope upwards. And there's something that happens in the energy where when you get there, there's a shift. And so I kept walking, and the path turned, and I turned with it. And up at the top of this slope, you can see everything. You can see Denmark. Uh, it's very close, but still. And right by a bend in the road, I found this stone that's just perfect for sitting on. It's flat, and there's like a smaller stone that's like a step up to it. So I sit down there, facing this view, and I begin my meditation. I think I wrote this in the email that sometimes when I meditate, it's like mm, I can sense if there are people around me. Like you can often sense if there's somebody in the room, if they're standing close to you. And sometimes it's like I get visuals on my eyelids of these people. After I've been sitting there a while, not very long at all, um, there was somebody coming towards me from the path, from the direction I had been walking. And I see this dark figure in my head. And when they come up close to me, the feeling of them being there is so intense that I have to open my eyes because I felt vulnerable sitting there not seeing this person coming along. And I open my eyes and there's nobody there. And then I look down into my lap and there's a caterpillar. Uh, and at this time, like I said, it was a big time with my education finishing and lots of other things. And one big thing was me coming to acceptance with my being trans. And so this caterpillar, this symbol of transformation, was just such a perfect sign. So I knew immediately that this was a very big thing. And then I started learning more things about this place afterwards. Like it wasn't until the summer that I discovered I'd been sitting under an elder tree. Uh, and after I stood up after my meditation, I looked to the side and I realized that this not just a bend in the road; it's a crossroads. But the third path is covered in grass, so it's not as obvious. So yeah, it was like a very symbolic time and place that I didn't fully grasp until after the thing had happened.
Is this a place that you've gone to since?
It is, yeah. So since then, I've moved to another part of the city, so it's not as accessible to me. But I try to go back a few times every year. I've done some Crossroads work up there. So this autumn, as you know, I went on a pilgrimage, and after coming back home, it felt important to visit certain special places to sort of catch up, and this was one of the places. And so things opened up for me during this time, and when I went up to this place, it just felt like this beacon. Like already when I was entering the path, it was um, a very strong feeling of being drawn there and of the place drawing things to it. That was really fascinating to experience. And that's also, it makes sense with other things that I've found out about that place when I've been doing research because I'm curious about it. So we know that there used to be like going way, way back to Norse times, there was a Tingsplatz there. That's where they held the assembly. And later on, it was a place where people would celebrate important holidays. So it's like people have been drawn to this power spot always. So it's very special.
Goodness me. So, yeah, that's amazing. I wonder where
Mm.
that third road led. I mean, that in itself is very fey, very fairy,
Oh,
isn't
yeah. Happened upon it from the other direction once, and it really felt like a road that was, partly in this world.
it? Wow.
um, so it doesn't lead anywhere special, but the road itself is just partly overgrown, and it's been a while since I walked there, but it felt like it's something very other about it. It's something that I feel like I will, keep coming back to and discovering new things every time. Right now, I'm working more closely with places that are easier for me to access, but yeah.
It sounds like you're quite familiar with these worlds. How did that come about when you were a child?
So, yeah, it's always been present, and I come from a family where people are sensitive but don't necessarily know what to do with that. So I think that's why it's always been there. But for one thing, I think my first memory is, I think I must have been around 1. This is a very early memory. I'm still in my cot, and I'm woken up in the middle of the night by somebody jostling me and saying "boo," and the the feeling I get is that it's a young girl. She's older than I was then, maybe 4 or 5, and she's very playful. But then I open my eyes and she's not there, and that's basically the memory I can remember calling for my mom and her coming into the room. Yeah, there's something that sort of being the starting point of all my memories. It's when I was a kid, I thought that this was a ghost, um, but now when I'm older, this whole the playful nature of it, I'm not sure. It feels like it might be different.
Did you have a sense of what she looked like then?
Not really. I mean, when I picture the scene,
Mhm.
it's like I can almost see a transparent person.
Mm.
Um, but it's very difficult to say what's an overlay of later memories of the memory and so on. But it's not really any physical features.
No, no, no,
No.
just a sense of.
Mm.
So what kind of impression did you receive of them, of their presence?
Well, it felt like somebody who wanted to play.
Mm.
And I remember as a child thinking about this, about her saying boo, and that being what ghosts said. So she was
Yeah.
pretending to be a ghost.
Mm.
Um, and so scaring me, but it was scaring me for the game, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point about the boo. Yeah. And how did it kind of land with you at the time?
I mean, I don't think it was something that, I mean, obviously it stuck with me uh, since I've remembered it forever, but I don't think that I have any other memories of what I felt about it, if that makes sense. So it wasn't like I was scared of it happening again or uh, thinking about it that way. It was more, oh, I saw something unusual and I will save that.
Mm.
I actually had an experience a while back that made me think back to this. Um, I can't remember exactly when this was, maybe sometime last year. I think I was mm, doing a lot of meditation and coming back to my sensitivities. And one night, as I'm about to fall asleep, I get the sensation of somebody standing next to my bed in a sort of crouched posture. And again, it's like somebody pretending to be scary. And at the time, I didn't really have the energy to deal with that. So I just said, stop being scary, and it disappeared. But there was something in that, the same kind of vibe. So this was another part of what I think I mentioned in my email, this a period when I was in my teens and experiencing a lot of things. And I think that was very closely linked also with what my mother was going through at the time. We lived in a place where we both experienced a lot of activity. I would constantly see shadows moving about our home, and I remember my mother. She was in a religious organization, and as part of her practice, she had this chant that she would keep playing, and for her that was like a shield, because if she didn't have that going, she would say that it was like a portal opened up in her room, and all these spirits would come to her. Um, and she was particularly sensitive to the spirits of the dead, but she was very afraid of that. So I remember her coming to me and saying, "Oh, there's a little girl in my room, and she wants help, and I can't deal with that," you know. So we both had this really intense energy going on in our lives, and in our home. And this is also when I would at night very often see this, what I today think of as the Hat Man, standing in my room. And at the time, I didn't have any, I hadn't heard of anybody else experiencing this. So when I first heard about that, it was spooky. It was, I mean, it felt very threatening. It felt like, so when I think back to it now, the picture I get of it is quite vague, but it was like a knowing that he is there. He's standing over in the corner by the door. Um, and there's just this menacing energy, and I mustn't even look in that direction. And I think that ties into my interpretation of that entity, is that it feeds off of that fear and anxiety. So both creating those feelings in that moment to feed off them. But we, both of us living in this place, we had a lot of that going on in general. So there was, a lot to feed on. Um,
That's awful. Did you ever look in that direction?
I think I did. Like I do have this picture of this shadowy figure in my head, standing there, and I remember I would draw him,
Right.
To sort of say that this is what I saw.
What was it like to draw him?
Good question. In a way that felt like an exorcism. Like I will pin this down on the paper to move it away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if you're gonna get me, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you still have the drawings?
I might have something, but I'm not sure. Yeah. It, it wasn't a very happy time, so I could have come across those and been like, oh no, I don't want the memory of this in my home.
Yeah. So you describe, this sort of malevolent, did you use the word malevolent?
I think I might have done.
Energy, and And he's standing by the door, so is that just outside your bedroom door?
Not just inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I had two doors to my bedroom, a large one and a smaller one, and I didn't really use the smaller one.
Okay.
And it went directly out into the hallway, and the larger one went into the living room. So it's a very narrow room. So I think at the time my bed was facing so that my feet were in the direction of the smaller door,
Right.
also right next to the closets.
Okay.
So it was the natural direction to look,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, then also something about that space.
Mm.
You know, as I was saying this, I suddenly remembered things would fall down. So that's another thing that happened in this place. Like I had this huge picture up on my wall that had been there for quite a long time, and then one day it suddenly just came crashing down. And also things going on in the kitchen in the same way. But I think, yeah, you know, it's the kind of thing that you hear quite often with teenagers and with people experiencing intense emotions.
So kind of like a poltergeist, what we would describe as a poltergeist type energy, something rising up. And was there a pattern of when he would appear or regularity of any kind?
Can't say for sure. I feel like the period when it happened, it was something that I would sense most nights. You know, it would be when I was going to bed, I would just close my eyes very um, with a lot of intention, and I wouldn't want to even think in that direction of the room, and just try to fall asleep as quickly as I could.
And how old were you at this point, did you say?
So we lived in this place for 8 years. We moved there when I was 13, I think. Um, I would say I was around maybe 14, 15,
Mm-hmm.
or 15, 16. Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And did you tell your mom about what you were seeing?
You know, I can't remember actually. I might have not told her because I didn't want to distress her, because I knew that she was already experiencing a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't want to add to that. Um, and part of that being that she obviously didn't really know how to handle it herself.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds very hard, a really difficult time to be going through and trying to sort of manage,
mm,
daily life, and then in your home that's supposed to be a place where you can just relax and retreat. It's really
mm,
the opposite of that. So it's
mm.
really hard. Um, I I hope that. How long did the difficulties go on for? I'm hoping that you were able to kind of find somewhere else to be. But 8 years is a long time. Was it continuing for the entirety of that time?
No, I think it was mainly during a time when I was, mm, actually, I can't be quite sure because the years sort of blend together.
Yes.
But I was having quite a rough time from the age of maybe 14 up until I moved out. I was 18 or 19 when I moved out. Uh, and then, so part of this was that I moved to another country. I lived in the UK for a while. So I just went to a completely different place. Um, and, you know, both the physical location of that and going to a place where all your circumstances are completely different. That the shift was huge.
Yeah. For the better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I haven't been very good at talking about either my experiences or my magical practice with others, because, well, part of that is that Sweden is so very secular and atheist. And that at the time that I grew up, you had the whole new atheism movement, so that you couldn't really talk about these things without being absolutely ridiculed. But as I've started talking more about my experiences, I feel like I've also come to understand, or I've been able to feel validated in them in a different way. You know, if I talk about what I experienced down by the river with a friend, I suddenly understand that, oh, this was a truly magical event, even if what, you know, physically happened is that I saw a bird, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? You can be telling somebody about something. Often you have something really incredible happen and then you just kind of go about your business.
Yes.
Because I think you're the same as me, and that, you know, things like this happen. You're very sensitive to these worlds, and so you feel it.
Mm.
And it happens so often because it does, because this is what the world is really like without all the
Yeah.
nonsense. This is what the real meaning of life is. Um, but yeah, it's not until you then, as you say, relate to somebody that yeah, that was a really striking moment for me. This was a really meaningful moment for me.
Mm.
That's great, and great that you're expressing it too.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
expressing it because it's part of who you are.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel that's what's allowing me to get deeper into it as well. Because cataloging things in a journal is one thing, but then you're making it further real by talking about it.
So you mentioned earlier briefly about the fact that you've gone on pilgrimage
Mm.
throughout parts of Britain.
Mm.
And this is where we met because you're a member of the Patreon crew. And the really lovely thing is that you came over when we did our in person earlier this year in Glastonbury. So we got
Mm.
to talk. And the reason that you were in England at the time was, as you say, because you were doing a pilgrimage. And we did manage to talk a little bit about it when we met.
So I have been to Glastonbury before, both when I lived in the UK and my mum lived there for a few months before she moved to the US. So I visited then. And I think this was, you released an episode about Glastonbury. I can't remember quite when that came out. I had felt the pull to go back to Glastonbury, and I was looking for an excuse. You know, I was looking at things happening over there, and they didn't really fit with my schedule. So I think it was when you announced the meetup that I went, okay, this is a good time. Let's do it. And it turned out that I had other things happening in Europe the week before and after, so I did it as an interrail thing. And so this was this September, and since this spring, I had been getting these pilgrimage synchronicities. Um, a lot of it was the really small synchronicities that you can't really explain to people, but you know, it would come up in every book I've read. And then I would go listen to a podcast about something completely different, and the person on the show says, "Oh, this happened when I went on pilgrimage." And one day I was coming back home. I had been spending some time in the botanical gardens close to where I live. This is another crossroads thing. As I was coming up towards the crossroads near my home, I see an interesting person coming towards me from the other side, out of town. And I get this feeling that I want to see them more closely. So I picked the path that would lead me by them. Turns out it's a man who looked like he had stepped out of the Hermit tarot card. He he's all in white in this long robe, and he's got a shawl covering his head, also white. He's carrying a walking staff and a lantern, and from his belt he's got a palm leaf. So that in itself is kind of a big thing. But then later that same week, 3-4 days later, I was out on a trip on the east coast of this region, a couple of hours away. And I think in part I had been thinking maybe this is my pilgrimage, because I mean, connecting with the land is huge for me, and that region that I went to is very special. And I'm sitting on a bus, and suddenly I see the pilgrim in the middle of nowhere. He's together with somebody who looks to me like a Thai Buddhist monk, and they get on my bus, and then they get off it a few stops before me. So I go, okay, second time. And something that makes this also personally relevant is that the group my mother was with had Buddhist connections. So a companion there pinged. And then later that evening, I'm on a small hill by the sea, and I'm doing some very basic camping. I've just brought my hammock, and I wanted to test out some new gear for it. I'm sitting in this lovely space, looking at the sea, and thinking I really should do something about the hammock soon, but I don't want to move just yet. And then suddenly I get this, okay, now you have to stand up now. And when I stand up, I can see this path going past the hill that I couldn't see from where I was sitting. And just at that moment, he walks past. So that's, it's the kind of thing that you can't ignore. Yeah. Um, so it was sort of decided then that, okay, my journey to Glastonbury will become a pilgrimage. There's so many parts that go into this, but it relates to a being that I had a dream about in my teens, um, who, mm, it's I don't know how much I can say about him, and about his um, connections, but he's very relevant for our talk. So before I went to Glastonbury, I stopped for a few days in London, and I met up with a friend who has a practice that's very similar to mine. And this was the first time that we met, and it was absolutely lovely. It was like meeting an old friend. And he took me out on a night walk in a place that's very special to him. What we experienced there, it sort of unlocked something in me. And then I've written something about this after being on this walk. I've written the feeling after, like being a vessel filled with something sparkling, swirling. I can feel it in my belly, in my chest. This is something I'm bringing with me. My head is empty, clean. And I woke up the next morning, and it was like my entire bed was vibrating. I couldn't tell if it was coming from inside me or if I was in a hostel. It was bunk beds. But in hindsight, I feel like, yeah, that was me. So I head out towards Glastonbury, and this feeling, I can feel it now actually. Um, this feeling in my chest, it's like as I'm getting closer, it's like it's getting hotter. Um, and I spent a few days there. I felt extremely drawn up up the tour. So I spent every evening there, staying until after dark. On my second day, I I got the feeling that I needed some kind of divination system, because on our walk we had been using tarot cards to get a feeling for the vibe of certain places, and I hadn't brought anything like that with me. And my friend said, with the way things are going for you now, it wouldn't surprise me if you just found a deck on a street corner. um, and I did find a deck, not on a street corner, but a used deck that was just felt like something that I could work with. And that has turned out to be very, very important for me. It's I can read it in a very intuitive way. Um, that I don't, that's not the way I usually read tarot. I usually go more for the traditional meanings, but this deck wants to be read like what it is this time that I pulled the card.
It's powerful.
Yeah. So I spent most of my days wandering like the countryside, feeling drawn to um, out of the way places. One day that stands out to me, I climbed a fence and ended up in on a slope covered with hazels. So it was very shaded and quiet and apart from everything. And I sat there for a long time and just talked to the hazel trees. And after leaving there, I entered a place that I think was an old orchard that wasn't being looked after any longer. And the feeling there was extremely otherworldly. It's the kind of place that I don't know how much of this is personal significance and then how much is relatable to others, but it's the kind of place that feels like spring, uh, even when it's September. Um, when I think back to it, it's like I can almost see this overlay of apple blossoms. I spent some time there. Yeah, afterwards headed up to the tour again. So there are two like separate or not separate parts to this. So one is this figure that I don't feel like I should name, and the other is my ongoing relationship with Dionysus, who was extremely present during the entire journey in a different way. Like I would, part of it is that I would keep encountering people wearing t-shirts with giant bull heads on them. And on I think on my final night, this was the night before the meetup, I was up there and I I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay or not. Something felt like I wasn't sure about something. And I asked my cards and they said, well, you will regret it if you go. Uh, so I'm outside sitting with my back to the tower, and then I get this sign that you should go join them. It's time. And ended up at what I later described as a revel, very Dionysian, with a person who I think he spends a lot of time up there. But this night, it was like he became an avatar. Uh, he was the outsider that leads the procession. He would egg people on and dancing and singing. Yeah, he even looked like him. So that was, it's hard to do it justice.
You know, when you went for the walk and you had this, like this vessel and something, you know, magical taking place inside, and it feels like the pupa or chrysalis. So it when you were describing it, it made me think about the chrysalis.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something kind of breaking down
Mm,
at the moment and completely transforming into
yeah,
something else.
exactly.
And then you wanting to go to Glastonbury. It's interesting that that became such an important part. It became a really important ingredient where you.
Mm.
So did you meet the guy up on the tour?
I met him there,
Yeah.
and so that night he was already part of this group that was, drumming and singing inside the tower. But I think that I had seen him around the place before. I think he comes there lots.
Yeah.
And on one of my, I think maybe on my first night there, I encountered somebody who I think was him when I was coming down in the dark. And that was when I saw him at the distance. He looked so strange. It looked like he was like making weird shapes with his body moving in a way that's not completely right. And then I come up closer to him, and then suddenly he's a person uh, who tells me good evening.
That's so interesting. So maybe you were seeing another kind of layer of
Mm.
his being actually in that place.
Yeah. When I was still in London, I went to the British Museum and did not end up seeing what I had planned on seeing at all. But I ended up in the Mediterranean section, and they have this huge Dionysus mask
Oh,
that they write that it would have been hung from a tree, and it's a meter tall. It's amazing, and it's quite worn away. You can't make out the features exactly, but at the same time, he looked so much like this guy. It was the same kind of vibe.
wow.
So that was another piece that was just incredible.
Have you found that you're still kind of riding this wave now that you're back in
I
Sweden?
I am parts of it, yes. So I think that the part that relates specifically to Dionysus is about I've been offered to do some personal work that I am working up the courage for. Um, so that's sort of in the background right now. Uh, but the thing that I'm doing is very related to this feeling from our walk, and I've had it described as like a seed taking root, something that needs watered.
Mm.
So I've been spending a lot of time with water in different ways, and mm, it's been incredible the way things have been unfolding from that.
Yeah.
Getting back getting back in touch with spirits from my childhood that I had almost forgotten about, and then realized that, oh, I think this is something more. Mm. So when I was a kid, this is sometime before I was 4, because we moved away from this place then. Um, my mum taught me to talk to trees. We had this park near where we lived where she had this copper beech that she really connected with. And I had this gnarly old, probably dead at that point, tree that stood just outside the park that I was so in love with. Um, and I would talk to him. He was my friend.
Mm.
And we moved from there to another town, to where I'm living now. And one thing that happened is that this tree spirit, it would come and visit me in my dreams. And I think I can say this, yes. This is one spirit that I have been able to reconnect with just recently. And that's, yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. That is so beautiful. I'm so glad that you remembered that too as well. It must have had a real profound effect on you
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to carry that through with you.
Mm.
Gorgeous. Is the tree still there? Are you able
It's
to?
not, unfortunately. So for a while, when I was living there, it was still standing up. And then after we moved, when we came back to visit, it was lying down, but still in the same space. But now they have built a new building right on that spot. So it's no longer there.
But its spirit remains, as we all
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Continued in part 2 next time. Thanks so much for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider joining us on Patreon for dozens more episodes of unreleased bonus content, monthly online events, and a private chat. We are a warm, supportive community, and it really helps to support the project. Find us on patreon.com/the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast.
SpectreVision Radio.